Greetings, comrades! I am Skeleton Etiquette, or Sket if syllables frustrate you. Today we're talking about the Mage Tower. This is the solo instance scenario available during Legion Time Walking. I realize this video is a bit late, as the event's already been out for almost 2 weeks at this point, but who knows? Maybe this will get some views in a few months when the next window for the event opens up, assuming that there isn't a patch that renders all of this obsolete. Disclaimer, I progressed through this in about 6 hours, and at least 5 of that was spent going through the first phase. Do not let that discourage you. It's all downhill from phase 1, I promise. I'm going to break this up into chapters, so you can grab as little or as much information as you want from here. We'll be talking about the Resto Shaman today, which is the class and the spec that I main. So it was the first one that I did in Legion, and it's the first one I'm doing this time around. One major difference, if you did this when it first came out, is that you cannot outlevel this. You cannot try again later with better gear or a second legendary. What it is now is what it will be until they make balance changes. Which is possible, but I wouldn't bank on it. The second major difference being none of your class enhancing mechanics will work in this version. That means no legendaries, past, present, or future are active. Same thing with set bonuses, covenant abilities, soulbinds, conduits, azerite armor, essences, artifact weapons, etc. And I think this highlights an issue that I've had with class design for some time, because without any of these things, you realize how the base class just kinda suffers in comparison. But that'll have to wait for a different video. Back to the tower, what can you do? Is everything pointless? Do we just go in blindly and die for hours? Absolutely not, comrade. Lord Illidan warned us of the dangers of preparation and, well, not doing it. So let's build our glorious shopping list. Ah, talents, my favorite part, because without them, we're untalented and we'll probably lose. Have I mentioned how hard this shit is? Anyway, talents that I took. I started with Torrent, and I know that this isn't taken virtually anywhere else, but I found it to be incredibly powerful going into phases 2 and beyond. From there, Echo of Elements. Echo of Elements, both for healing reasons and for damage reasons, is a mandatory talent in this case. Now to Earth Crab Totem, very strong for soldiers in phase 1. After phase 1, we'll transition to Spirit Wolf because of its damage reduction capabilities for the remainder. Earthen Wall Totem never really loses out. It's pretty strong throughout the entire Mage Tower, so we'll go with that. Nature's Guardian. Now, Nature's Guardian is pretty helpful in the first through, say, 5 phases. However, in the final phase, this can actually kill you, and that really sucks. So in the last phase, we'll actually go with Graceful Spirit. That'll bring up our mobility a little bit, and it won't kill us, and I feel like that's really the takeaway from this. Down to Cloudburst Totem, this is the other totem that I would say we have a mandatory talent, because nothing else here is actually really as good as Cloudburst, and it actually cheats us out of a couple different scenarios that are otherwise pretty tricky. Going down to the final row, most people go with Ascendance. It's a really strong instantaneous CD. However, I went with High Tide. That's just because with 4 people up, Chain Heal is at its optimum healing capabilities. I like the use of High Tide as it is. And you're going through quite a bit of mana, so you're going to find you have quite a few High Tide procs. And it's just a bit more consistent, keeping you out of, the corner where you need a CD immediately. So that's what I went with. Now, before we got into this section, I just wanted to start by saying that I really enjoyed going back through all the old expansions for ultimately, their greatest hits, right? Because you wanted a piece from over here, but you wanted the enchantment from over there. You wanted this helm, but you needed this shield. And, you needed to weave it all together to try to build, your own master set or, the perfect character. And there was just a lot of fun doing that between different sets of experimentation or discovery and finding out that this does work with that or you can't use this with that. But it was just a lot of fun, and I hope you do the same. Now, let's talk gear, my favorite part, because this is going to determine your enchantments and your sockets. You can bring virtually any trinket from any expansion, including the Legion's specific roll trinket, which I was expecting to perform really well. And your mileage may vary here, but the healing one sucked. It didn't do, anything. I instead went with a damage trinket, an on-use damage trinket at that, being the pocket-sized computation device. The Cyclonic Blaster is what I have in mind, and it's a high-damage, short-channel burst trinket that's on a moderate CD, and it's pretty strong. And then this This is just a random passive healing trinket that I got off of a world quest, but it was doing pretty well. And in all my testing, the passive healing trinkets were winning out. So that's what I decided to go with. I'd recommend you do the same, but also feel free to experiment because there's an incredible amount of options available to you. Now, in terms of stats for your Shaman, you're going to want to pick up as much mastery as you can. I would highly recommend picking up these BFA green crafted rings from Jewel Crafting because it's very easy to target the stats that you want. And they also guarantee a 52 item level socket, which you need for both the Leviathan's Eye and the Kraken's Eye. And you can even put the better enchantment on them, the +9 instead of +6. This is an extremely cost-effective gear choice in terms of price, availability, and functionality. This is going to be my best recommendation getting started for this. Beyond that, high priority items being the shield that comes from SOO. Even if it's not this shield, even if it's the one that has the strength socket bonus, it's still that good. A lot of gear on this list will come from SOO, and that's because of how many sockets they tend to have, and enchantments were still very powerful in Mists. If you can't get either of those, you still need a shield. You want the armor it provides because it's an additional 10% damage reduction on the few of the different abilities that come up in this scenario. Do not take a staff into the Mage Tower. From here, weapon, bracers, chest, and cloak. All of them coming from Shadowlands, and that's due to the enchantments that they have. Either the enchantment, the oil here, this just the bracer enchantment for an intellect, the primary stats enchantment here, and then stamina, and I would actually do avoidance instead of leech, but all of them are quite powerful. The shoulders, I actually ended up getting these shoulders from SOO, and these are the ones that I'd recommend if you can get them. And that's because of sockets and the scribe enchantment that you can put on them. Don't forget that. The neck is actually Prydaz from Legion. A lot of people are running with the Heart of Azeroth. However, the Prydaz actually beats out Heart of Azeroth because it came from Legion, and you can put the Mark of the Trained Soldier on there. It also comes with a socket, all of which put it above Heart of Azeroth. However, if you don't have it, if it's too much of a hassle to get, Heart of Azeroth is your backup. Now the helm, I would have gone with the Siege of Orgrimmar helm here because meta gems are available. But I didn't get it on my run and I wasn't going to go back through it again, so that's just what I ended up with. Gloves. I got the gloves from SOO, so again, high sockets, good enchantment, good choice. Going down to the belt, if I would have gotten the SOO belt, I would have gone with that because you can also use the, I believe it's the Living Steel belt buckle, which will allow you to put additional gems in there. The pants is a bit of a mixed bag because even with the sockets and the spell thread on the old pants, they're still about breaking even with the Shadowlands pants. So that one, if you get them, go ahead and use the older ones, but otherwise don't feel bad about missing out on them. Boots are a bit of the same thing because there's only one socket in there and they're kind of already a little bit lower than everything else. Both of those I would actually recommend getting benthic pieces because benthic pieces have a chance of pulling either sockets or tertiary stats on them, being leech, speed, and avoidance. Avoidance being the best one, and after that leech and speed just isn't that powerful here. It's better than nothing, but it just doesn't do a whole lot. The benthic pieces you can get from Nazjatar. They're very easy to acquire, and you can keep rolling them. So if you get like a handful of pearls, just go back and just keep rolling the same piece that you want and see if you can get the piece that you're looking for. Now, two warnings that I'm going to give you about the SOO pieces. First is that they're only powerful if they're fully socketed and enchanted. Without those, they're actually significantly weaker and will be dead weight on you unless you bring out their full potential. And the second is that you can get a significant amount of intellect by filling them with gems. However, you are losing stamina each time you do that, along with the secondary stats depending on how you're gemmed, and none of the suggested SOO slots that I've given have verse on them. Just be mindful as there are a number of mechanics that will target you individually. I completed the Mage Tower with 88% mastery and 11% verse, with only 8% haste and 16% crit. But that's all you need to know in terms of itemization for your Shaman in the Mage Tower. Ah, enchantment. My favorite section, because this depends entirely on what you got. Because if you bring Shadowlands gear, you can't equip older enchantments, and vice versa. Shadowlands enchantments do not work on older gear. So from the top to the bottom, You have the helm that has no enchantment, doesn't matter where you got it. The neck, you're looking for the Mark of the Trained Soldier. This is only if you got the Legion neck. If you got something else, this does not apply. Your shoulders, you're looking for the Greater Crane Wing Inscription. Again, this only applies to SOO items. The next 4 are all Shadowlands, and that's Fortified Avoidance for Cloak, Eternal Stats to Chest, Eternal Intellect to Bracers, and Celestial Guidance to your weapon. Next is the Enchant Offhand Major Intellect. This is for shields, if you got the SOO shield. Then you have Gloves, Superior Mastery. Just the same, it's for SOO only. If you got an SOO belt, you need a Living Steel belt buckle. I didn't have one, I couldn't find one, so I just looked it up. Then for the pants, if you have SOO, you're looking for Powerful Enchanted Spell Thread. Your rings, you're looking for Accord of Mastery. This is if you got the BFA rings, the green ones that we were talking about earlier. And then that's it for your enchantments. You're looking good. Ah, consumables, my favorite section, because if we're gonna die, we're not gonna die hungry, am I right? Now, the food that you want is entirely dependent on how much gold you want to spend, logically, but the best food for you is actually the feast, FEAST, or Famine Evaluator and Snack Table. This is from BFA. It provides 16 intellect, but requires some pretty intense farming or quite a bit of gold per attempt that you want to get in there. There were also issues where you ate a feast outside, you got your food buff, you walked into the instance after a short, sometimes short, loading screen, and your food buff is gone. They jack you of your food buff, man. Instead, I'd recommend running with the good old Borealis blood sausage. This is only 12 intellect instead, but it is a single serving and is significantly easier to obtain. The only difficult mat is Sanguicel, which you can get from bosses in Old Deer. Even a single heroic kill will yield between 10 and 20 hours of attempts, excluding character deaths. Easily forgotten, but very powerful, are the War Scrolls that scribes used to make. You have the War Scroll of Fortitude and the War Scroll of Intellect, both of them providing 3% of either Intellect or Stamina for 30 minutes. It's not that long, but it is incredibly powerful. The biggest difference you're going to see are the BFA flasks. Between these and the Shadowlands flasks, the BFA ones are about 3 times as powerful. Don't make the mistake of walking in there with the wrong flask. Make sure you're getting the greater flask of Endless Fathoms. On the other side of that pendulum, you have Augment runes, and the best Augment rune and the worst Augment rune are 1 point of intellect off of each other. So just grab whichever one you either have the most of stored up in your bank, or can access the easiest, or are the cheapest, really. Our oil that we want to use is the Shadow Core oil. That's because the only timed event that's in this is based on damage, and the healing isn't very much, but the damage just helps us get a little bit more of an edge. Our potion is the Superior Battle Potion of Intellect. This comes from BFA as well. Just make sure that you're picking it up. I know that all of these costs rolled into each other seem a bit demanding, but consumables are very powerful, and they become the difference between you walking in with 350 intellect and walking in with 450 intellect. Don't short yourself here. We're lucky because most of our failures won't actually be because of us dying, but the teammates, which won't erase our buffs. So rejoice! We finally get to know what it feels like to feign death or pop invis at the end of a wipe and keep all of our buffs. Grumble, grumble, hunters, grumble, grumble. Gems. Now, this might actually be my favorite section, and that would make sense because I'm a jewel crafter. If you have a good amount of SOO gear, then you're going to have plenty of slots to fill, and we're going to go through them in order of priority. So the first one is the meta gem, the Burning Primal Diamond. If you've got it, you need this gem. If you don't, then you're lucky, because that's still pretty expensive. From there, you're looking at the Leviathan's Eye of Intellect, the Kraken's Eye of Intellect, the Saber's Eye of Intellect, and the Nightmare Tier. All of these are unique equipped, which means that you can only have one of them in any one piece. Try to make sure that you're filling the Shadowlands slots with these first, because those have the lower priority of actually filling, except for obviously the Burning Primal, which has to go in the SOO piece. From there, you're looking at the Brilliant Queen's Garnet, a 4 intellect, but it's not unique equipped gem. These are, not gonna lie, these are pretty pricey. I don't know if I would have spent the money to put them in my gear, but you know, they're there and people want them, so that's the recommendation. Down from that, you're looking at Masterful Argolite. This is from Legion. And then you have our jewel clusters that are going to be from Shadowlands. And then even lower than that, our previous lower tier gems. You also have the option of doing the Brilliant Primordial Ruby. I would possibly recommend doing this over the Queen's Garnet, because I mean, if I'm going to spend 500 gold on a Primordial Ruby or 20,000 gold on a Queen's Garnet, I'd probably want more than one intellect difference out of those. But it's your money and you're going to spend it how you want. But generally we're looking for intellect gems over secondary stats here, but it will depend because of how many sockets you have and how much SOO gear you have. You're going to kind of want to balance how much you're getting, because like I said, your secondary stats are going to be lower if you have a lot of the SOO gear. You may want to consider gemming some of the versatile labradites. Those are the versatility version of the Argolites from Legion. Don't recommend gemming for stamina ever, even if you feel that you need it, because it's the least efficient way to get it. When you're trading intellect for stamina, you're getting 1-to-1 in gems, but if you're trading it in other means, like say food or flasks, you get more like 2-to-1 stamina to intellect. So I would definitely recommend either dropping your int food or int flask before you start swapping out int gems. And now we defeat the Mage Tower as a Resto Druid. No. Please come back. I'll be good. It's the Shaman. I swear. We'll get started. The first phase starts with you facing an army. They come in 3 different units. An archer, who's your typical hunter that has a 1-button rotation and presses it about every 30 seconds, flipping around like an asshole the whole time. They will attempt to hit you with a mana sting that will immediately end your adventure here, not by killing you, but by consuming all of your mana in exactly half of a second. Give or take a half second, of course. Line of sight this ability by letting a friendly take the arrow for you, then return the favor by dispelling them. Or they die, which is bad, because you don't actually lose when you die. You can onk and keep going, but you can't onk your friends. Even with ATP, because they actually won't accept the res. Like, if you just gotta take a crap, man, it's fine. You can just tell me that. Like, you don't just gotta be dead on the floor. The second enemy is a mage who only casts 1 spell on repeat. If it completes, that spell continues to get stronger. 40% stacking at this time, but it also slows down the casts by a half second, unless you purge it. If they have 1 stack and finish a cast, you will lose almost every time. This is the most dangerous enemy in this entire encounter, and if you don't prioritize the mage, you will lose, like, a goddamn lot, and that's just science. I've done all the math, but if you want to double check it, go ahead. I mark the mages as the intro starts up, and always focus the mage of the next pack as the current one dies down. Always kick their first cast, apply some damage, and then as soon as their second cast finishes, purge them. Even though it's technically better to wait and purge them at the last second, you're just asking for trouble. They are always focused first by your teammates though, and for that, we are thankful. Last are the soldiers. They have 2 abilities, Knife Throw, that is a deceptively strong AoE, which pulses for a few seconds, and then they have a targeted rage. That generally goes on you, but they can target your allies if a stun changes up their timers. This can either be kited, astral shifted, or even just healed through if you have enough versatility. The only add-on I use in this encounter is Decursive. It's very handy for cleansing the mana sting quickly, and I would recommend it to any healer that doesn't already use it. So from the top, here's phase 1. The first wave is an archer. Very simple, just LOS the mana sting, and then dispel. Second wave is the archer and a mage. Kick the mage's first cast, and then purge after the second cast completes. LOS the mana sting, and then kick the 4th cast if that mage is still alive. Cloud towards the end of this pack, because we want it to go off in the next phase, but you want to do it as the archer is about to die. The third wave is a mage and a soldier. Kick the mage, and purge after the second cast. Stonewall and Chain Heal through the Knife Dance, and then kick the mage's 4th cast. Do not use a cap totem on this pack. We need it for the 4th pack. Now the 4th is the most deadly. As usual, kick the first cast from the Mage, slightly pause, and then cap both the soldiers and the Mage. They're going to be grouped because you kicked the Mage. You're trying to stun them out of that knife dance. Now Lust, Battle Potion, Earth Elemental, and Damage Trinket if you brought it. Give this everything you've got. You want to get that Mage down as fast as possible. The 2 soldiers are going to enrage. You need to Earth Grab and run away from them. You can Cloudburst again and Ascendance or Chain Heal through the double knife dance. This is going to hurt quite a lot. You can attempt to Astral Shift and hold both of the raged adds coming up, healing through the damage, but it all depends on your HP and versatility. Try to focus the lower soldier down. One of them is no problem, but 2 of them is still pretty dangerous. Once you're through the 4th wave, you should have 2 major CDs remaining, Link and Tide, along with the Cap Totem regardless of what talents you took. Kick the Mage, you want to stun right after. You'll see mine is actually a little bit too late because the archer is about to flip away. The timing is pretty tight because you're trying to catch both the knife dance and the archer. Either way, as soon as that's done, the soldier's going to enrage, Earth Grab, and run away. I ran out here to the center because I'm trying to pull the fight away from the gate. When you're by the gate, the Mana Sting actually has some issues with the animation and can make it a little bit more difficult to LOS. As you see right now, it's out in the open, it's much easier to trace. Now, you can also Spirit Link right here. This will protect you in this phase because that was actually really close to me just dying. You want to Tide through the Knife Dance. And because packs 4 and 5 are so long, we're going to get the majority of our CDs back right here. We're going to get Astral Shift back, we'll get another Earthen Wall, another Cloudburst, and we still have Spirit Walker's Grace for the Rage. Use everything you have at your disposal. There's no points for unused CDs. Once the soldier is down, you're basically home free. If you get caught by a Mana Sting here, you can still onk and come back. You'll even get 20% of your mana back. Don't worry, you're about to get a breather. This is the end of Phase 1 and the hardest part of this challenge. Outstanding work, comrade. Now let's take a moment, catch our breath, and re-up any lost buffs if we died and onked. We can wait out a CD or 2, particularly Earth Elemental and Lust. Going into Phase 2, you have 6 eyes enter the room with you at the center. Kill 1 as fast as possible. I used my damage trinket to instantly take 1 out. When an eye dies, it will reduce you to roughly half HP. This is where Torrent comes into play for the first time, as just a single Riptide will get you back in fighting shape very quickly, and this damage portion is timed. Single target the eyes down, killing more than 1 in a short window will be fatal. Keep rotating around the room. If you're too close to an eye, you'll take heavy pulsing damage. After the 6 eyes are dead, you have a Felguard and some bats come down. Mostly they're just an afterthought, but if you're tight on time, you can leave a bat up with Flame Shock on it and maintain Flame Shock on the Felguard to double your lava procs and get through the meaty demon a little bit quicker. Don't do this with all the bats though, because the longer they're alive, the stronger they get. You can juggle 1 or 2 bats pretty easily though. Now another quick intermission with floating orbs that you can one-shot with either Chain Lightning or better yet, Frost Shock. There are also 3 allies that you need to heal to full. Be sure to cleanse the one that's running around like an idiot first, because if you get too close to it, it will fear you. And if you're feared, one of the allies is likely to die, because they're all just bleeding out. But that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is it fears you back down the stairs and into an orb and kills you. If an ally dies in this section, it means that you have to fight them along with the archer that's at the top of the stairs. Basically, it's not good because the time is still ticking down. Use the allies to LOS the Mana Sting. You can use Cap to interrupt it. The timing is tight, but you'll give yourself some cushion if you pull it off. Open the gate, kill the orbs, open the last gate, and... After this, you have another room with a larger demon and a handful of eyes. Pop your Earth Ellie here, and it will tank the demon while you dispatch the eyes. Lust on the demon if you kept it. This is the end of the time trial. Prioritize the eyes first, and then the large demon. Kick the Mind Spike when the Earth Ellie is dead, burn him down. Dodge the rotating eye blades. They don't hurt as much as you would expect them to, but they do give you a debuff for a short time that increases the damage that you take, which can be deadly if combined with one of the eye explosions, so be mindful of that. Now that the time trial is complete, we get another breather. This is our last chance to change talents for the remainder of the tower. Don't forget to pick up Spirit Wolf and Spirit Walker's Grace. Those are the 2 big ones. You can also wait out Lust if it's on CD, and same with Onk. When you're ready, Phase 5. This is another healing challenge. No damage will be dealt here. Your party becomes MC'd and you need to keep them from killing each other. At the same time, the center enemy will keep pulling in 3 souls at a time. I would advise not using Riptide on your allies. You want to save it for the spirits that are floating in, because you don't have a whole lot of time, and a single Torrent High Mastery Riptide can all but take care of a Spirit Soul. With a second cast, you should be able to top off the second one and Healing Surge on the remainder. Time between soul packs will allow you to get your Riptide charges back. After your allies start to attack each other, you want to put a Cloudburst totem down. When the souls come out, they will benefit from the cloud even if they're LOS'd from it. Use each time that you start to heal your allies, and the timing will work out each time. Rinse and repeat for 3 rounds. Phase 6. Here is the final boss. He has 2 abilities, both of them being very important. He will leap at you, immediately leaving a pool on the ground. Allies are immune to this pool, but you are not. It will deal moderate ticking damage. Then the boss will debuff you. Once it expires, it will deal damage relevant to your current HP to others. So the more health you have, the worse it's going to hurt them. Being over 65% almost guarantees an ally dies. You want to be between 20 and 35%. The bad news is, the lower health we have, the harder our heals are going to hit us, potentially healing us to full and wiping the party. I would heavily advise not using Cloudburst without precise use. It can top you up at the worst time and wipe the party. This is also why I don't use smart targeting trinkets or weapon enchants specifically for this phase. You need your healing to be controlled and predictable here. Manage your health with Riptides and walking into the pools to lower your health as the debuff expires. As soon as the debuff expires, use Ghost Wolf to reduce the incoming damage because the boss will leap at you, leaving another puddle on the ground. It is important to overlap the circles as much as you can during these leaps, which means that you're staying at the edge of a circle or even inside a circle. You're not making cookies here. Use your space wisely. You can even use a defensive and completely overlap the circles because their dot damage does not stack. You can Lust again to help out your allies, Earth Elemental, Damage Trinket when it's available. If you die here, do not release. You can also Onk if it's available, but the instance is not lost when you die, but when a teammate dies. You can win this challenge, even as a corpse. Now channel your inner hunter and cheer them on as you watch helplessly from the floor. Just keep your pools in check and stay calm. You do have plenty of space to work with. If all goes well, then you have succeeded. You've obtained Sweet Mog, Glory, and Comrade status in my book. Well done, Comrade Shaman. Tonight we feast. If this video helped you obtain Mog and Glory, just leave me a comment. If this video got you killed and you're upset about it, just leave me a comment. If this video had too much banter for your taste, just leave. No, in all honesty, I'm extremely new to this, and I would appreciate any advice that you could give me. I'm only here to offer help and smiles. You can find me on Twitter if you wish to do the same. So until we see each other again, take time and take care.